So, what have we got today? Oh, the story we have today is from May 1969 Jack and Jill magazine. It's a story by Barbara Priceman. It's called Something to Crow About. So, you're going to be the father. Okay, I feel like a good father. And I'm going to be the son, Billy. Billy Sawyer walked through the small patch of woods. Billy Sawyer walked through the small patch of woods behind his house calling, "Here, Lucky, here, Lucky." His voice echoed back at him, but his basset puppy was nowhere in sight. Usually Lucky was waiting at the back door every morning when Billy came out. But yesterday only Cedric, Billy's pet crow, had greeted him. He'd flown down, mostly cawed to his good morning, and Billy had picked up his fishing pole and worms and started off for the nearby pond before he noticed that Lucky wasn't even around. Now, as Billy stood and worried about his dog, Cedric flew up and lighted on a branch above him. "Caw, caw, caw," he said. "He's awful noisy," Billy thought. Yesterday, he thought Lucky was home because all the dog biscuits were gone from Lucky's bowl. Then he'd seen Cedric swooping off with one of them in his beak. Cedric had emptied the bowl. That dumb bird, Billy just had to find Lucky. Cedric cawed again. "Go away, Cedric. Shoo," Billy said. Billy called his puppy, but Lucky never appeared. Dejectedly, Billy walked back to his house. His mother was busy making pies. "Did you find him?" she asked. "No, Mom. I couldn't find him anywhere." "Well," she said, "I'm sure he'll be back. Don't worry." "I hope so," sighed Billy. "Now, Billy, of course he will. He's probably off hunting somewhere. He's growing up and it's natural for him to go hunting." Billy wasn't convinced. Idly, he watched his mother move about, and the pies smelled nice. "I wish Lucky were here," he thought. He went slowly to the door. "Guess I'll go fishing," he said in a forlorn voice. "Well," his mother said, "there's always Cedric." "Oh, that old crow. Who cares?" "Billy, Cedric is a nice, smart bird. You've always liked him." "I don't care. I'd rather have Lucky," he said, and he left the house. "Dad will help you look for Lucky when he gets home, Billy," she called, watching his drooping figure. Cedric was flapping excitedly around him, making an awful racket. At the pond, Billy ignored Cedric and threaded a worm onto his hook. Usually he gave Cedric a worm, but today he didn't. He forgot and he tossed his line into the water. When Cedric didn't get a worm, he waddled off to look for grubs. When the bobber bounced, Cedric screeched. Billy didn't even notice. He was thinking of his soft, furry puppy. He wanted Lucky back. For one terrible moment, Billy was very close to tears. But Cedric was making such a racket that Billy got angry and yanked on his line. A flat bluegill dangled at the end of it. Billy unhooked it and threw it back in the water. Disgusted, Cedric flew off through the trees. Billy usually gave him one, but the bird was bothering him, and he had stolen Lucky's food. That night at dinner, everyone was glum. Billy's father and mother tried to be cheerful, but Billy knew they were worried too. Nobody had much to say. "Apple pie and ice cream for dessert," his mother said. Wonderful, said his father. That's I hear it is that too. Billy said nothing and just nibbled at his dessert. Don't worry, Bill. Lucky will come back. Of course, said his mother. Dogs like Lucky will like to wander off. They won't get lost for long, Bill, said his father. I remember once when I was about your age, my dog got lost for quite a while. Grandfather and I looked everywhere, and then we finally had to give up. At the dinner that night, we drove back to our fishing place, and there was old Lucky, right where we parked the car. He was waiting for us. But Dad, something must have happened to Lucky, or else he'd be here. Lucky's probably off somewhere, resting up. Maybe he's sleeping. He may have chased something a long time. He's only a puppy. He's probably just tired. Billy was still worried. Anyway, in the morning we'll look together. It's Saturday and I don't have to go to the office. Suddenly they heard Cedric. Caw, caw, caw. He screeched. Oh, that noisy old crow, said Billy. Billy went to bed but couldn't sleep. He thought of the wonderful times that he'd had with Lucky. I hope he's okay, he thought, and he fell asleep. And here's a picture of Billy, and he's having a dream about chasing Lucky in a stick through the woods. Next morning, Billy woke with a start. Lucky, he thought. He threw on his clothes, dashed downstairs, and ran out the back door. Here, Lucky! Here, Lucky! He called. An old little dog came bounding to meet him. Your father has been up since 7 o'clock looking for him, his mother said gently. Come drink your juice, and then you can go join him. Billy plunked down at the kitchen table. Suddenly he couldn't hold back the tears. His mother just hugged him. A little while later, his father came in and poured himself some coffee. No luck yet, Bill, he said. I've been all over the place. Did you look along the creek? Asked Billy. Yes, but he'll be back. I'm sure of it. Billy didn't say anything. He was thinking of all the things that could have happened to Lucky. How about a game of horseshoes? Said his father. Oh, okay, Dad, Billy answered. It'll be something for us to do. Mr. Sawyer had just thrown a ringer when Cedric perched on one of the stakes. Caw, 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 Cedric said. Well, Cedric, what is the matter with you? Mr. Sawyer laughed. Ha 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 ha. Dumb old bird, Billy said. Go away. He was waving his arms at Cedric, and Cedric streaked off into a tree. Caw, caw, he cried. Really, Bill? Said his father. That's no way to treat Cedric. Oh, he's a dumb, ugly, noisy old bird, said Billy, scuffing the dirt. That's silly, said Billy's father. Crows are smart. And Cedric has been a good pet for many years. Mr. Sawyer was about to throw another horseshoe when Cedric flew and perched on the stake again. Caw, 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 he cried. What's the matter with Cedric? Mrs. Sawyer asked, coming out into the yard. I've never heard such a noise. Oh, it's just ugly old Cedric, said Billy. Billy, That's no way to talk about Cedric. Cedric kept cawing and flying up into the tree and back again. He's not ugly, Bill. His father said, see the bright green around his neck and his sharp black eyes. Oh, I guess he is kind of pretty, said Billy. And he's smart, too. Did you know that crows can help people find things that they have lost? Gee, I didn't know that. And he looked at Cedric with new admiration. Suddenly, the crow flew off the stake and landed in front of Billy's parents. Screeching loudly, he dashed back and forth. What's the matter with him, Dad? Asked Billy. I don't know, said his father. But he's certainly upset about something. Suddenly, Billy remembered the way Lucky and Cedric played together. When Cedric used to ride on Lucky's back, he wondered about crows finding things. Cedric certainly was excited. He flapped and cawed, and Billy watched him. What did he want? Dad, Billy burst out, I think Cedric is trying to help us find Lucky. John, cried Mrs. Sawyer, I do believe he's right. Come on, Cedric, show us where Lucky is, said Mr. Sawyer. Off Cedric flew with Billy tearing along below him. In the woods, Cedric lit on a branch and cawed and flew off again, and Billy raced after him. At last, Cedric perched on a fallen log and started cawing again. When Billy ran up and stopped, and the quiet, Billy could hear a small whimper. There was Lucky, and he saw the puppy. He was stuck in an old log with his head, and only his head and his neck showing. Lucky barked happily at Billy. We'll get you out, said Billy, scratching at Lucky's ears. Dad, Mom, we've finally found Lucky. Looking at Lucky, Billy's father laughed. So he just got stuck. Poor little pup. Billy, look, said his mother. Look at all the bits of dog biscuits that are scattered all around under Lucky's head. Well, I'll be. How about that? So that's what Cedric has done with all of Lucky's food. He brought it to Lucky so he wouldn't starve. Oh, Cedric, you really are a smart bird. They all looked at Cedric. He was strutting along the log, chest thrust out and his eyes glinting happily. He was obviously pleased with himself. Cedric, you're a wonderful little smart bird, said Billy's mom. Right, said Mr. Sawyer. Now, let's free this puppy. Billy and his father broke the rotten log apart. Lucky jumped free and barked happily as Billy hugged him. I'm glad Cedric found you, said Billy. Caw, caw, said Cedric, and he landed on Lucky's back. Well, that's the end of our story. We had 3 characters in the story. We had Billy, his mom, and his dad. Yes, and we also had Cedric and Lucky for characters in the story too. And let's see, it took place at Billy's house outside. So I guess that's the end of the story. Yes, that was a very good story, and thank you for being my father. Well, I don't know if I'm really your father. Well, you did a good job with the hat and everything. Okay, well, say goodbye. Bye-bye.